so welcome to the Declutter Your Mind workshop. My name is Jessica Davis from Project Stay, as many of you already know. Today I'm going to talk about strategies to help boost your brain power. And this essentially is decluttering your mind. So everything that I'm going to talk about today comes straight from a book called The Mind Decluttering Project by Jennifer April. And it's a really good little read. It's super easy. The chapters are short. But again, she kind of details 10 specific things that you can do to help boost your brain power, help free up some of that space in your mind to remain focused, avoid distractions. Can we help you? Okay. All right, so the first thing we're going to talk about is stress. So kind of that's the first strategy that Jennifer brings up in the book. Believe it or not, stress can be fatal. So the type of stress that is fatal, that can kill, is chronic stress. Chronic stress is stress that occurs over a long period of time or just consistently occurs. Our bodies were only built to handle acute stress, which is just, short-lasting stress, temporary stress. So chronic stress is what we want to try to avoid and try to minimize as much as we can. So what does science tell us about stress? Well, science tells us that stress can be triggered mentally. A lot of stress is just perceptual. So we kind of, sometimes we create our own stress just based upon how we perceive something. Something interesting, so fish, birds, and reptiles tend to secrete the same stress hormones as we humans do. But their bodies don't get messed up the way it does in humans. So why could this be? Basically, the humans endure, they create that stress for months on end, whereas fish, birds, reptiles, they do not have that chronic stress that can be fatal. So, thumbs up. So our humans' health is greatly at risk because of this chronic stress. So if we can kind of be more like fish, birds, and reptiles, to where we don't let our bodies don't create this chronic stress that takes place for long periods of time, then our health will increase. We might live longer. Okay. Stress is not the same for everybody. So, for example, type A personalities who are said to be more irritable, more competitive, they tend to experience greater than average levels of stress than maybe somebody who's a type B personality. Okay, so stress definitely is not the same for everybody. One person's stress, it can look very different from another person's stress. Stress can cause what's called a learned helplessness. So a lot of you psychology majors might know what that is. But a learned helplessness can make people become passive, depressed. May make them dismiss any opportunity to change or opportunity for relief. So you can kind of, an example of this is from when psychologists used to experiment on dogs, the shocked dogs experiments. So eventually the dogs were in a chamber where they got shocked. But then when the dogs were given an opportunity to escape the shock, they did not, because they were so used to the shocks and not being able to escape. So that's a learned helplessness. They did not seek opportunity when it was presented to escape the shocks. So another example of this is a shy person who maybe has experienced awkward social situations many times. They may soon think that they can do nothing to overcome their shyness and thus stop trying to engage in social situations altogether. Okay, so that's kind of a human example of learned helplessness. lastly, stress can be reduced when one has a sense of control, an outlet, or emotional support. So, imagine two groups of people in a room, or two separate groups of people in a room. One, they were both, a horn was sounded in both experiments, to these people. That was loud, kind of obnoxious. So one group of people had a warning sign, a warning sound about 10 seconds before the horn was going to be sounded. So they kind of knew when that sound was coming, when that loud, obnoxious horn was coming. The other group did not. They just had the horn whenever, randomly. So what was found was that the people who had the warning noise before the big, loud, obnoxious sound was that they tended to adjust better. They were less irritable because they knew the sound was coming. They kind of perceived more control over the situation since they had that warning sound of, hey, this noise is coming. Another example is of the, kind of like the shocked dogs experiment, but shocked rats. So if there was a group of rats in one chamber, and then there was one lonely, isolated rat in another chamber. So the lonely rat would be shocked and tended to be, to not adjust as well as the rats that were in a group that were shocked. Basically, this sums up that if you have somebody to go to when you're stressed, you tend to overcome that stress better, okay? So if you have emotional supports, if you have that big network, that big support system, you are likely to combat that stress much easier. If you have a hobby, again, that, an outlet to get that stress out, then you are likely to, again, overcome that stress, reduce the risk to your health of stress on your body. All right, so how to combat stress. The following strategies are listed up here. So utilize a positive stress mindset. Recognize that having stress in your life can be a good thing because it shows maybe you have purpose or you have lots of things going on. If you have stress because of your schoolwork, you can recognize that you're capable of getting a degree and you're working towards something, towards a purpose, towards a goal. Okay, so try to adopt a positive mindset in regards to that stress. Number 2, confront your fears often and head on. So by challenging yourself and pushing the limits, you'll learn to adapt and become stronger. So again, try to, instead of pushing your fears back, try to slowly confront them and try to make them less fears and more challenges, more opportunities. This next one is kind of funny. Don't force yourself to exercise, right? Because we all tell you physical activity is good. But what this is basically saying is that, a lot of times, like, for example, in my mind, I think of physical exercise as like running, and I hate running. And a lot of times that turns me off to exercising because I feel like that, in my mind, again, that's what I feel like will get me the most results in the least amount of time, but I hate it. So I don't even do it. So don't force yourself to do something that you hate in regards to exercise. Find what exercise you enjoy doing. Could just be walking, could be yoga, could be, playing basketball. So find what type of physical activity you enjoy doing and do that. Make it your routine, your rhythm. So think, what activity can cheer me up? And again, focus on that for your physical activity, your exercise. Lastly, develop a hobby, make friends, stay social, because again, as can be seen in those experiments, that feeling connected is one of the best ways to manage stress. So having that outlet, having that support system to kind of get your stress out to them, that could be very helpful. All right, the second topic, distraction. So, distraction is what tends to undermine our efficiency, okay? And staying focused is what is crucial for being efficient and productive. As you all probably know, since you're in school, focusing on your homework is a big deal. So, distractions can be either internal or external. Okay, let's start with external distractions. External distractions are things like your phone ringing or your email going off, beeping that you get a new email every few minutes. Could be people chattering near you. Could be the traffic noise outside. Okay, those are external distractions. Those are kind of things that you don't have much control over. Whereas internal distractions are basically things that pop into our head at any given moment. They seem kind of like random thoughts. So, for example, you may be working on some important homework or a paper for class, and then all of a sudden your mind goes to, okay, what am I going to eat for dinner? Okay, so that's kind of an internal distraction. The important thing about distractions is that they can be stopped. So, and that's, the whole point of this slide is that, it only takes less than a second to stop distractions. And what that involves is vetoing your impulses before they turn into actions. So, again, I mentioned this technique a lot, called thought stopping. So recognizing that thought is in your head, being aware that it's there, pushing it back out, and focusing back on your schoolwork. In 2005, there was a study that was published that it found that office workers spend an average of 11 minutes on a project before becoming distracted. 11 minutes, that's all it takes. And after an interruption, it took 25 minutes to return to the original task. Okay? So, what's even worse about that is that each time they tried to refocus, they consumed quite some of their brain energy and were gradually becoming exhausted. So that's can explain why you guys might feel exhausted sometimes after getting done with a homework assignment, because you may have been getting distracted throughout that entire time and eventually use up all your brain energy. So again, 0.2 seconds is all it takes to decide that you're going to veto that thought, that internal distraction, and get back to focusing on what you're doing. That 0.2 seconds, that comes from what was called the Libet, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Libet, Libet experiment. Basically, he found that one's brain had decided to move a finger about 0.3 seconds before a person was consciously aware of this urge. So therefore, you have 0.2 seconds to notice an urge and possibly intervene. Okay, so it takes practice, but you have 0.2 seconds. I shouldn't even say 0.2, but you have 0.2 seconds, not even a full second, to veto that urge or that thought that you have in your mind to get back to focusing. Okay. Another helpful trick for avoiding distractions is this ABC method. So A equals aware, B is breathe, C is choose. So A, be aware that you have options. You don't have to remain focused on that thought that's in your head. You can either ignore your impulses or choose to try to address them. For B, so breathe deeply, weigh your options again. And C, think carefully and decide, stop or go. Okay, so use the ABC method when trying to avoid and kind of curb those distractions. All right, anxiety, next one. So we oftentimes think that anxiety is a negative emotion. We often do not want to feel anxiety. It's an uncomfortable feeling. We think it's something that needs to always be avoided, right? That's not always the case. some studies have found, of course, that there's a relationship between arousal and performance. So what that basically means is there's an optimal level of anxiety that can actually motivate you and help you focus on the task at hand. And the trick is to find what's called the sweet spot. Okay, so you don't want too much anxiety. Too much anxiety can turn you off to doing your schoolwork altogether. And you don't want too little anxiety, because again, that could make you procrastinate. So you want to find that sweet spot, that moderate level of anxiety that helps push you to get something done. So find your sweet spot, again, that optimal level of anxiety that can motivate you. And channel your anxiety into positive energy to help you reach your peak performance. So that leads into the next one, turn anxiety to your strength. So again, instead of seeing it maybe as a weakness always, think of it as something to be embraced, something that you could identify as a strength for you. Research has found that anxiety can actually help us make better decisions. So anxiety, as part of our survival instinct, is a sign of our vigilance, and it helps us to make more rational and realistic decisions in life. And for this last point, so the anxiety versus excitement. So this is one way we can try to help turn anxiety to be a strength. So great athletes typically are good at turning this performance anxiety to their strength. And if you guys can think back to a time, maybe if you were an athlete in high school, or if you were in, if you played a musical instrument in band or orchestra, you maybe had a little bit of performance anxiety, just being really nervous before a performance. And athletes feel that all the time, even the best athletes. So instead of saying I am anxious, instead try saying I am excited, okay? And thus, this turns anxiety that is often seen as a negative thing into a more positive one. So again, next time you're starting to feel anxious or you're just really nervous about something, try to tell yourself that you are just more excited about that, okay? And we'll say this a little later on, but even fake it if you have to, okay? Until it maybe becomes more reality to you. Okay, so fourth, visualization. Sounds kind of funny and silly, but visualization really has some great benefits, and a lot of successful people have utilized visualization in their past. So I have a little video here about Jim Carrey, and he's talking with Oprah Winfrey about basically Jim Carrey, when he was still a struggling actor, struggling to get going, he wrote himself a check for $10 million one day. I think this was back in 1987. He wrote himself a check for $10 million, and he started visualizing himself succeeding, being a great actor, starring in movies and things, just whatever he wanted to be successful at. He started visualizing that. And then I believe in 1994, he actually received a $2 million check for his role in Dumb and Dumber, okay? So he's going to talk a little bit about that in this little YouTube video that I've got, but it just shows kind of that power of visualization. No sound. Let's see, no sound. Are you techie?
From what I can see, I don't know what the issue is, so I'm not. Doesn't look like the sound thing's on.
It just doesn't work, okay.
call her Candace. Who she knows.
Okay, for those of you who are watching with us, timeout, technical difficulties. We'll see if we can get this volume working. She broke it. It's gonna like blast as soon as it does fire.
Just skip it and move on.
Broken poor.
Right, having directors interested in me and people that I respected.
Thank you, IT guru.
All right. So here's our video.
In life, everybody around you is a teacher for you. If you're in a bad relationship right now, you are a student of how to have a better relationship. If you're in a bad situation with your boss, that is a teaching situation for you to learn how to get yourself a better boss. Who would have thought in all of the years of the Oprah show that Jim Carrey would be one of our greatest teachers? Okay. Obviously you knew somewhere inside yourself that you were destined to be famous, because I think it's really a marvelous thing, that visualization thing you did. Do you read about this or hear this? That you used to go up on Mulholland Drive and park
Yeah, every night.
and visualize seeing yourself as...
Yeah, I would visualize,
This is when you were broken poor.
Right, having directors interested in me and people that I respected saying, I like your work, or whatever that is, and I would visualize things coming to me that I wanted or whatever.
This was in like 1987, 85.
Yeah.
And
I had nothing at that time, so it was like, but it just made me feel better. It made me, at that time, all it really was for me was kind of making me feel better. I would drive home and think, well, I do have these things. They're out there. I just don't have hold of them yet, but they're out there.
Okay, so you would get this from what, self-help books or whatever?
Yeah, self-help section.
Self-help section.
They renamed it the Jim Carrey wing.
So didn't you write yourself a check? I heard that you did. Is that
I
true?
wrote myself a check for $10 million for acting services rendered, and I gave myself 5 years, or 3 years maybe, and I dated it Thanksgiving 1995, and I put it in my wallet, and I kept it there, and it deteriorated and stuff, but then just before Thanksgiving 1995, I found out that I was going to make $10 million on, I think it was Dumb and Dumber.
Dumb and Dumber, yeah. So you visualize yourself. Visualization works if you work hard.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You
Work
can't
hard.
just visualize and go eat a sandwich.
I love that. That was such a powerful moment for me, because I was not a person who did visualization or thought about my belief system in such a practical way. But I learned a lot from Jim Carrey on that show, and he is absolutely correct. If you can see it and believe it, it is a lot easier to achieve it. So thank you, Jim, for reminding us of that lesson. And it doesn't mean that for every person that writes the $10 million check that that's going to happen for you, because so many times people who do that process live in the space of wanting and resisting it instead of writing it, visualizing it, seeing it for yourself, and then letting it go. Letting it go, but moving in the direction of working toward it. So nothing happens at first. It's over the process of the time, the effort, and the energy that you put into a thing that the energy comes out.
Yeah, so that's important too. It's just that, visualization is important in itself, but you also still need to keep, working to achieve that, that visualization that you have for yourself. So very cool, lots of famous actors, actresses, athletes, have used this and visualized themselves reaching their ultimate goal. Scientific studies have shown that mental practice activated, so mental practice such as visualization, activated the same brain regions as physical practice did, okay? So, practice makes perfect. So in return, this produced the same neurological changes in the brain, okay? So it's powerful. Visualization is powerful. It can really do just about the same thing as, as that physical practice, such as when you are practicing a sport, trying to get better, okay? There are a few tips to harnessing the power of visualization, and those are listed for you here. Tip 1, be specific. So, so that is key, to establish a specific and vividly imagine to establish a specific goal and vividly imagine the moment when you have achieved it, okay? So bring out all the details. Engage all your senses. Again, be vivid. Be as vivid as you possibly can. If you can see it in your mind and believe it, then you can achieve it. So, and it is more easily achievable, and you are more likely to realize that. So, so be consistent in your visualization. So, for example, say your ultimate goal, hopefully for a lot of you being college students, is graduation. And at times, the road getting there has been hard, bumpy, rough. You've been faced with many obstacles. But if if your ultimate goal is graduation, visualize yourself, what that day will be like for you. Visualize yourself in your cap and gown, walking across, hearing your name being called, walking across the stage, people applauding for you. Imagine shaking Dr. Marvel's hand and receiving your diploma in the other. Okay, imagine taking pictures. Again, use as many senses as you can. So what do you see that day? What do you hear? What do you smell? What do you taste? What can you touch? The more details you can imagine, the better. And the more likely your goal is going to be to achieve. Again, you got to put in the hard work behind it. As Jim Carrey said, you can't just visualize and then go eat a sandwich and expect it to come true. But put in the work. So I really like these pictures on here. Especially the cat, the little kitten turning into a lion. That one's pretty cute.
What if it's the lion that wants to be a little kitten?
What if it's a lion that wants to be a little kitten? Well, that can happen too if you visualize it, right? So yeah, pretty cool visualization. All right, next we're going to talk a little bit about the unconscious mind. And basically, for this strategy, you just want to learn kind of about what the unconscious mind is and learn to let it help you. So what you need to know about the unconscious mind. Your unconscious mind is the majority of your mind. So here is the fact. The brain can absorb about 11 million pieces of information in 1 second. 11 million pieces of information in 1 second. Of which your conscious mind can process about 40. pieces of information, okay? So the unconscious brain handles all the rest. So your unconscious brain does a lot of legwork, pretty much. To let your unconscious mind help you, you need to communicate with it in ways that it can recognize, in ways that it can understand, in a language that it understands, which would be emotions and images, okay? Or emotions of your imagination. Okay, so when you are experiencing a lot of positive emotions, so maybe when you're smiling a lot or laughing, when you're experiencing those positive things, supercharged with big, bright pictures of you succeeding, then you will be more likely to let your unconscious mind work to your advantage. So this is where the fake it till you make it can come into handy. So again, charge your mind with those visualizations of you succeeding. Put a smile on your face. Just try to be more positive in your daily life. And your unconscious mind will kind of catch on to that and help fuel you to get to where you want to be and to help, kind of declutter your mind of that negativity and things that you don't want to be there. So, for starters, smile more often, okay? Laugh more often. They say laughter is the best medicine. So again, fake it until you make it if you have to. All right, next is all about kind of mindfulness, meditation stuff, okay? So why is meditation so beneficial? You guys have probably heard that a ton since being in college maybe. But basically, simply put, meditation heightens your intelligent thinking and shuts down your brain gossip, as well as a plethora of other benefits. And these are just to name a few. Let's see. Meditation is a fabulous way to practice mindfulness and experience self-discovery. So if you want ways to just help you be more present in whatever current situation you're in, meditation is your go-to. So a 5-minute daily meditation can be transformational, just 5 minutes a day, and even just a few days a week. So in order to do this, all you need to do is find a comfortable spot, a safe space, get comfy, set the timer, close your eyes and breathe deeply. Quiet your mind, enjoy the moment. Always remember that the mind is like a muscle. If you want more focus and clarity, you need to constantly work on it. And meditation, mindfulness is one of those ways that you can work on it. So there are many types of meditation. So some of which I have listed up here: yoga, Zen, transcendental. I think that bottom one is Qigong. I recently went to a workshop where they demonstrated some of the Qigong exercises. But those, so there's several different types of meditation. So I encourage you to look those up, find, what looks most interesting to you, give them a try. There are also many different techniques for meditation. So there's a guided meditation, unguided, mantra-based, non-directive. Guided meditation is more, listening to a prompt or listening to something on your phone or on the internet that is telling you what to do. So it may be telling you to breathe in and out. It may be telling you to notice the sensation in your toes. Okay, so that's guided. You're listening to someone tell you what to do while you're trying to meditate. Mantra-based. Mantra-based is where you kind of pick a word or a phrase that you want to guide you and kind of keep repeating that phrase to yourself during your meditation. So, I'm not sure if I had a little mindful breathing exercise planned for you guys. I don't know that I have enough time right now. So, but if you guys, get a chance, follow that link, do that mindful breathing exercise. It's really cool. If we have time at the end, I'll come back to it. All right. So, next is all about to-do lists. So work on giving your to-do list a makeover. Oftentimes we make to-do lists that are choked down with several different tasks, which can become counterproductive, can be very overwhelming because it just seems like there's so much we need to get done. So here are some tips for creating an effective to-do list. Number one, prioritize your tasks. So put them in order of how important they are, how quickly they need to be done, okay? So the most important should be done first, least important last. Limit your to-do list to just 3 to 5 items, okay? So no more of this like 8 to 10. I encourage you, if you have several things to do, create other lists like future to-do list or idea capture list or weekly tasks list.